Hey guys, this is Runner Faru here, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to upgrade the worm shaft bearings or bushings into bearings. And so in order to do this, it's going to involve a little bit of teardown on this reel. We're going to have to take off this end plate on this side, and then we're going to have to get into it on the spool side as well. And so yeah, let's go get started. Actually, you know, before I start this, I just wanted to say that this upgrade doesn't really affect the performance at all. It's more of a I don't know, if you really want to do it and you have a lot of spare time. It does make the handle kind of spin a lot more freely. It lowers the resistance. And so I kind of liked it. It'll upgrade your reel to a 12+1 bearing reel. And then there's one other upgrade that I'm actually considering doing that I may make a video for in the future. But in this video, we're just going to go ahead and get into the worm shaft or worm gear bearing mod. And so to do that, we're going to start by taking off the end plate and the spool, and then taking off the handle. On mine, it's a left-handed reel, so it's going to be righty loosey, lefty tighty. And mine does also have the well, I changed it out to a Tatula 85mm handle. In order to get off this drag star, you do need to kind of put the spool back in, and then do the same thing, righty loosey, lefty tighty. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and then I'll put these aside so that these can kind of be in order so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Hoping everything is in frame. This actually has two washers. It's a keyed washer that goes on top first, and then there's a regular washer there. And then you've got these two, not really sure what they're called. Let's see. They call them a spring washer. These two need to oppose each other. You can see that they're kind of bent or curved. And so you need to put them so that they are opposing, and then they are keyed so that they only go in kind of one way anyways. So those two, I'll set those aside there. And then there's one little tiny washer underneath all of that. Put that aside. Now we can take out our spool and set that aside as well. For this, I do recommend using a reel tool, but you know, a reel nut tool, I guess. But you can, you know, use whatever size. I think it may be either an 8 or 10mm. I'm not 100% sure. And then you should use a J00 Phillips. There is one part where you're going to need. Well, I was able to find this little screwdriver bit that actually worked really well, but you may need to kind of finagle it with a flathead, maybe even two flathead screwdriver bits. And I'm talking about the C-clip on the inside of the reel. Anyways, to get into this end plate portion, there are going to be 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, and then on this side 4. They're all the same size. You don't have to worry about which one goes where. So we'll go ahead and take these guys out, put them aside. I guess while I'm doing this, I can just like to, you know, say thank you to you guys that are watching and you know, following along on these mod and, you know, kind of PSA videos, I should say. Like I said in another video, I'm not an expert with reels. I'm just a person who likes to, you know, kind of tinker with these and take them apart and kind of see what's on the inside. Anyway, so I'm going to take out the anti-reverse clutch sleeve because it's easier to kind of put in later. And then this is the end cap, and I'll go ahead and put that aside. It looks like the bearing fell out, but that's not a big deal. Just pop that back in. And here we are in the inner parts of the reel. We'll go ahead and take out these clutch springs, and then we'll go ahead and take off the main gear. And this is all keyed, and it's nice to just keep it all together. There is one washer that kind of rests on top, and so I'll just keep it there, and we'll kind of mess with that later if it falls off. And then we'll get out the really sure what this is called. Actually, it says it's a ratchet. So take out the ratchet, set that aside, and then we'll go ahead and, just for good measure, we'll take out the pinion and the clutch. And then we will take out the, they call it a gear shaft. And so this comes out as one assembly. There are 2 screws. If you look, one right here and one right there, and they're both Phillips as well, and just unscrew them and the whole gear shaft assembly comes out. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll set that aside, get that screw and put that there. All right, so now we're at the part where we can actually start taking, getting into the worm shaft and the worm gear. So the worm gear right here, worm shaft, and then the line guide. And so to get into all of this, we just need to take off this front cover, and it's just kind of fit. There's 2 little clips. There's one right here, and there's one right here. And you can just gently lift up on one side and it will allow you to take off the front clip, or the front cover, sorry. So now we can go ahead and get into everything. But first we got to take off this little lever cover. And to do that, you just unscrew it here. Keep your finger on there, because there is something that is underneath that is, there's like a spring, and it'll go flying off if you're not too careful. So you can take off the front cover, or the lever cover, and then the lever itself. And so gently take that off, and then underneath you'll see that there is a tiny little white plastic pin that comes with a spring. It may come out in 2 different parts, but that's actually, don't lose that. That is what allows you to hear that little click when you move the side plate lever. So that's out, and that little guy came out of this little hole here. So this is the screw. This is where the lever rests in that one. Oop. It wants to pick up the spring because it's magnetized. Come on, stay there. And yeah. Okay, so we can go ahead and try to take off this C-clip, and that's where this special screwdriver bit comes in for me. I don't know if there's any specialized tool. I'm sure there is to get off these C-clips. On this reel, there's only the one that we got to mess with for this part of the teardown. But yeah, I like to kind of cover the C-clip with my finger and then push on both sides of the C-clip. Let's see if this guy wants to work with me. We'll see. It just wants to continue to rotate. There we go. All right. So I got the C-clip off, and I'm going to just take the C-clip out, and we'll go ahead and keep that and set that aside here. And then there is this it's like a line guide shaft that will come out from this side of the reel right here. We'll put that down, and then the line guide, we're going to go ahead and remove this plastic nut, which they call the Pawl Cap. And to do this, you're going to use a flathead, which I should have had ready. But use the largest one that you can find, because it's a pretty large flathead. And take that off, and then underneath what you'll find is there should be a washer, which I see, which is right here, and then the pawl itself. And that's what allows your line guide to move along this worm shaft. And so you can see how it's kind of curved right there. I'm just going to go ahead and put this and the washer itself back into the pawl cap just for safekeeping. And then we'll put that down. And now we can just go ahead and pull the worm shaft out. And so this is where your bushings would be. You would have one right here, and then you would have one right here. And the sizes to these bearings are going to be in the description below. The smaller one is going to go on this side, and then the larger one is on this side. The smaller one is actually really easy to replace, and all you got to do is just remove it, and then you can push it back on once you're ready to install your bearing. On this side, it's a little bit more involved. So what you do is you press down on the worm gear, and there's like a pin there. You can take out this pin from any side and then set that down, and then you can take off the worm gear itself. And what you'll be left with is a bushing and a washer, and then you can replace that again, bearing and then washer on top. Then the worm gear will go next, but remember that it's keyed, so you want the side that has the indentation for the pin to be up, and then you put that down. You'll put the pin back in, and then once it's just right, you can kind of pull the worm gear back up, and then we can just go ahead and reassemble everything. Hopefully your guys' washers on this side are still there. There's a large one, and then there's a smaller one, and if you want, you can just put your finger on top of that, and then we'll go ahead and put the worm shaft back into the cover, and hopefully everything goes through. Looks like one of my washers just kind of fell off. It's okay that the line guide is kind of all over the place right now. You want to keep one finger on the worm gear below so that this all comes up and stays still, and then you're going to want to go ahead and reinstall your C-clip. And I think the easiest way to install the C-clip is by using a flathead and just kind of keep pressure on from the back, and then push down without getting it to rotate, and then it'll just kind of snap and click into place. All right, so we've got our worm shaft and worm gear back in, and we have our line guide, and the line guide, we can go ahead and put the shaft back in. And the shaft goes with the kind of indented side in first. And let's see, you gotta line it up with the hole on the other side of the reel. I don't know if the camera is picking that up, but there is a small hole back there, and there we go, got it back in. It will want to fall out if you turn the reel over this way, but if you just keep it this way, it should stay in. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and put the pawl and the pawl cap back on, and it looks like this guy doesn't want to really stay there, so we'll just go ahead and put the pawl back in. Looks like the washer is still kind of there, so that fell out. Okay, so the pawl is back in, and it's nice and flat right there, and I guess I'll just put the washer back on for good measure, and then we'll put the pawl cap back on top of that. Make sure you don't strip anything because it is plastic. That would kind of suck. All right, so you can just snug it up there, and then everything is nice and tight, and you can check to see if everything works by moving the worm gear, and it looks like it is. Okay, so then the next part, we'll go ahead and put the front cover back on, and I will do it from the spool side of the reel just so I can keep that shaft back in place, and then I'll find the clip, and then just it'll snap into place. So we're looking good so far. And now it's just a matter of putting everything back into place. And so I'll go ahead and do the lever. And so if you look, this one, I'm gonna go ahead and switch out my screwdriver to Phillips. So it's this hole. There's three holes actually. There's 1, 2, and 3. This one is for the screw. This one is for the little detent, the sound detent pin, I guess. And then this one is where the lever itself will kind of rest in. So you can go ahead and take your spring and carefully put that back in. And then this pin is quite small. You can see it. On one side, there's a little shaft, and then on the other side, there's a little kind of a half sphere. That half sphere is what fits into the bottom of the little lever here to make that sound. So we'll go ahead and put that in. The little shaft should fit into the spring, and then you can kind of gently press down, making sure not to lose everything. Then we're going to go ahead and take the lever and make sure that these two little prongs are facing out. And then you have this little peg that goes into that hole right there. You can gently fit it over and then press down. And then we'll take our cover and make sure you have the beveled side up so that the screw can kind of lay flush in there. Take our screw, put that back in, and go ahead and tighten everything down. All right, so then we can check to see if it works, and it works. It sounds beautiful. All right, so now we can go ahead and reassemble everything on this side of the reel. And the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and take our shaft and fit that back in. Looks like one of the screws is still attached, which is fine. And go ahead and screw this side down. Just kind of snug tight that one first, and then put the other one in. And then, we'll go ahead and tighten that guy up once I get it in there. Got some fat fingers. All right, so tighten that guy up, and then we'll go back to the other side and finish tightening that guy down. Then we'll just kind of check to make sure that everything is fine and nothing is binding, and it feels fine to me. So then the next step is to take this little sprocket, and then it is keyed, so you're going to want to have that in mind, and then put that down. And then for these, you want to make sure that they're kind of flat and flush, and then your clutch button is actually in the up position, not in the depressed position. Oh, look, dog hairs, wonderful. Okay, so then we can go ahead and put our pinion back in, and the pinion goes in with the, now I think it's the clutch. You want the half circle side to be out away from the gear, and then you can put your gear back on, and this is also keyed, so just keep that in mind. All right, just go gently down, and it will eventually lay flush and mesh with the pinion. Then we can put the clutch springs back on. And I like to make sure they're kind of just straight up. And then we can put the anti-reverse clutch sleeve, and then put the end cap back on. And when you're doing this, I like to just kind of make sure that everything is lining up. All the screw holes are straight and aligned before I kind of put any more pressure down on it. Get that bearing to seat, and then you want to hold pressure on it while you start putting your screws back in. And I don't think they need to go in any particular order. There's one. And you should kind of keep pressure on the plate while you do this, because for whatever reason it doesn't really seem like the screws are very evenly spread out. So, does this mod really do anything? I mean, performance-wise, no, not really. But smoothness-wise, yes. I did find that the handle spins more freely after doing this modification. The bearings, you know, they're really cheap. They're like, I don't know, $5 max. And I've got them linked down in the description below. So if you're okay with waiting, you know, like the month shipping time to get these, you know, it's a fun project to do, if you're bored, especially. But anyways, as far as reassembling the rest of the reel, it's fairly straightforward. You just reassemble it in the fashion below, and I think that's going to do it for this video. If you guys like this video, please like. If you have any questions or comments, or if I screwed up on something, please go ahead and leave it in the comments. And thank you. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.